Jessica Carden with Murdoch Manwaring Company, a real estate group at Keller Williams Realty East Idaho in beautiful Southeast Idaho. Thanks for joining us for what we hope is going to be a multitude of live streams, because we're going to try to do a live stream every single week. We're going to talk about things that are local here in Southeast Idaho, events, businesses. We may have some guest speakers, and of course, we're going to talk about real estate and what's going on in our real estate market. Once a month, we're going to do what I call Just the Stats. Just the Stats is all about what happened last month in the real estate market in Southeast Idaho, Bonneville, Bingham, and Jefferson counties. What happened? What's up? What's down? What's going on? Is it a good time? Is it a bad time? And how do we know? So that's what you are joining us for tonight, is Just the Stats for April 2024. Even though today is May, we're going back because we gathered the stats for last month. I say let's begin and jump on in. And we want to thank Tommy, who is behind the camera on all of my videos. He's always trying to make me look good no matter what I do and no matter how many times I make a mistake. And by the way, if you love real estate and you love all things Southeast Idaho, go ahead and give us a subscribe. We are live on a few different channels right now. So maybe you're subscribing, maybe you're liking and following. Feel free to put a comment if you have a question. I'd love to answer those questions. And we are going to be here regularly. So hopefully by following and subscribing, you'll really enjoy the content. And I'm a real estate agent here in Southeast Idaho. If I can help you buy a home or sell a home, you're going to find out today it's a great time to sell and buy, and we are picking up. You're going to want to stay all the way to the end. I'm going to take you a little through of what's going to happen during the slideshow so you know kind of where everything is. But at the very end, we're going to do a wrap up on really, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? And what do the stats say? So thanks for joining us, and let's dive on in to the stats. So a little bit of an idea of where we are in the market today. So this is a little graph on how the real estate market works and what areas are slow. Everyone's like, is it better to sell in the summer or sell in the winter? Or are there no buyers? Does no real estate happen in Southeast Idaho in the winter? So here's a little visual of what happens and where all the real estate happens throughout the year. So we just moved into the second quarter. So we are in, we're going to be talking about April today. We moved into the second quarter. And as you can see in the first quarter, 20% of all the real estate happens in Southeast Idaho in quarter one. January is our lightest month. And then we move to February and March. And now we've just crossed that border and we're going down to the bottom. We're going down to the bottom section of our circle, where 56% of all of the real estate in Southeast Idaho is sold and bought and sold in the summer, which means 43% happens in the winter. It's almost neck and neck. So if you say nothing happens in the winter in Southeast Idaho, it's neck and neck, honestly and truly. So we're moving into that second quarter, which is the second heaviest time of year. Quarter three is really where the majority, but it's not that much more, 27% versus 28% in quarter three. So we're moving into that, I call the summer selling season. And in April, we begin and we'll have quite a bit, you'll see the activity starting to pick up. So what are we going to cover today? We are covering southeastern Idaho. So where that is Bonneville, Jefferson, and Bingham counties. Now we have more counties than that we cover in Southeast Idaho, but we do the stats just for the heavy ones. We've got Madison County and Fremont County, and we've got, if you go down, you can even get to Power County and Teton County and all of the Custer County, but we focus on the three main counties where they do the majority of the business. So our first section is going to be 20 slides. We're going to cover an overview of the closed sale stats for April of 2023 and year to date. Then we're going to go into section 2, which is the activity for specifically the month of April. And we only have 3 slides. Then we're going to go into section 3, which is another 3 slides. What's going on with the current inventory today? And then we're going to wrap it all up. Is it a good time for you to sell a home or buy a home in Southeast Idaho? So buckle up, buttercups, and we're going to begin. Let's start out. Really, in April, we had 190 homes sold. Again, these are our 3 main counties, 190 homes sold, which is interesting because that is an increase. Last year, we were starting to see a little bit of a decrease and everyone was feeling as though the market had slowed down. So we had a slower year in 2023, but we are picking back up. So we're at 1.6% increase on our homes sold in our 3 counties for 190 homes sold. How did that break down? So where are our popular homes? Where are the majority of the homes in Southeast Idaho? Well, here's the breakdown. it's pretty easy to see. In Southeast Idaho, we really love to sell homes between $200,000 and $500,000. You can see that's the bulk of the market. I mean, nearly about 150 homes are sold right, in that area. We don't have much under 100,000. We got a couple out there between 1 and 200,000. And then what's interesting is to see that 500 to 700. We still have about 30 homes out there, which is pretty good. And as interest rates change, of course, as those higher priced properties, they don't sell as fast when you have those interest rate changes. And we've had a lot of interest rate changes throughout the past year. In fact, our peak of our interest rate was in October of last year, but we've seen some softening, and we expect, of course, with a political year, we expect to see that happening. And with watching inflation and watching the job market, we'll see a change in that upper level as those rates adjust. What I do want to call your attention to is over there on the far right. Take a look at the average days on market. What average days on market is, how long is the home on the market actively for sale before it goes pending? Pending meaning it's a pending sale. It's under contract. You can see again, our lower days on market are our hottest markets, 200 to 500,000. So as you get above that 500,000 range, you can expect to see a longer days on market. So you're 3 months, don't be surprised if you're 2 to 3 months on market. Of course, that 700 to 800 price range, it's at 25 days, but there's only 2 homes. So it's easy to get to 25 days as one home sold quickly. And it adjusts that average days on market. But as you look up above, check out that million. We had 3 homes sold above $1 million, and man, you're looking at nearly a year, at least half a year, to have that home on the market before it's going to sell. So that gives you an idea of what's a popular price point in Southeast Idaho. If you're coming to town, that's where the heaviest and the more of a buyer's market when you're looking at that days on market. And we'll talk about that a little bit down the road. So let's take a look at, so we have some new, if you watched Murdoch Manwaring's monthly market reports, you're going to see some new slides that we've got in here, which are really, really fun. And we can see some things over time. So what does this look like closing over time? So when I talked about our hot price point in Southeast Idaho is 200,000 to 500,000, well, look at this over time. So as you look down the column on the left, this is over the years. So what are the hot markets? Where have we adjusted? Now, what is really interesting to take a look is go back to 2018. If you go back to 2000, make sure I've got my little highlighter going on here. If we look back at 2018 right here, and you can see that we were heavy and up to 200,000 in that time. We were, sorry, I'm going to have to make this work. I got to get my highlighter going. In 2018, that was a heavy time. In under 200,000 and below. So you could see that was when you started to see the prices change. When you started to see the prices change, you started to see less homes in these lower price points because the average price started to creep up. Kind of look at this diagonal. Watch that creep up as we get to the peak of the market, which was in 2021. And you start to see us getting heavier to where the middle becomes right here in this section. That's where we're at. A couple of years before that, you weren't selling as many homes. In the 400 to 500 range, 47 homes. But take a look at getting to 2021, we were at 235 homes. So you start to watch that go down as prices raise. You're going to see this trend right down here, and we get up to the top. Now look at these above $1 million. So let's look at this column here, 900 to $1 million and above one. But look at the numbers versus, back in the 2010 to 2015, it was rare. This was for the whole year. It was rare to see a home selling above $800,000. And then look how heavy we got in our 2021, 2022, 2023. Now we're in 2024 and we've only been, this is April, so 4 months in, and we already had 4 in that area. But we see a lot more heavy, higher price points in Southeast Idaho historically. I think this is kind of really a fun slide to take a look at. So let's talk on new construction. So all of this, everything I've said so far is all homes. Anything that on the multiple listings service, which is called the MLS, that's where we pull our data from, Snake River Regional MLS. But new construction, how does that differ? Look at the differences of how we've grown in new construction. It's really important to have new construction because that helps keep the inventory high. If we didn't have enough homes being built after 2018, you saw, as you can see right up here, man, new construction just really struggled. Really struggled. You didn't see nearly as much. 2010 is when we kind of saw a real heavy turn in Southeast Idaho after the crash and the Great Recession. So you saw that turn, and you just watched that new construction die off. Money was hard to get. Builders were skeptical. A lot of builders exited the market and never came back in after all of that. And so you'll start to see, it's really great to see us picking up in new construction. And you can see here, they're not building new construction under 250,000, really under 300,000. You're going to see new construction in Southeast Idaho right in this 350 to 450 range. You've got some new construction in that higher end, but this is where the hot market is. Now, if you think back of what's closing and selling in Southeast Idaho, what's our price point? It's that 300,000 to 500,000. And so they're building those new construction homes right in the pocket, trying to hit that heaviest market that we have in Southeast Idaho, right there in that price range. So homes sold year to date. So how many homes from January to the end of April have sold? 655 homes this year have sold, which again is 2% up over January to April of last year. So once again, you'll see that increase. That market is picking up, and you're going to see us kind of, now we're coming into the spring selling season. So the fact that we're ahead of the game already, I think we're going to see that only increasing as we go through. Here's closings over time. So this is a really interesting slide to take a look at, because what we're trying to see here is where are the heavy times of the market. So if we look back in April, so here is April, and we've got 134 homes that closed in April. And this is just for Bonneville County, so I probably better preface that. When you see our these big slides with all this data, you're going to realize that it's just Bonneville County. My numbers that I put together are for Bonneville, Jefferson, and Bingham County together. So this is Bonneville County separately. So you can see here that we are looking pretty strong. Now, back in 2022 and 2021, those were our heavy times, but we are nearly back to 2019 numbers. We're at 134 right here, 134 this month. And back in 2019, we were at 146. So we've got some heavy years, but it's starting to pick back up. I think you're going to see us coming back to life and we'll check this as we go through these next summer months. How are we staying, and are we picking back up and getting back to where we're having our average sales coming back over time? So you can kind of take a look at that. I think that's a really interesting slide to look at over time. Now let's talk about average price per square foot. Now remember, this average price per square foot in Southeast Idaho encompasses all homes. So it's from $1 million home down to a $100,000 home, and we average it. So this does not mean your house will sell for $178 per square foot. But on average, if you were looking at a $40,000 mile view of the real estate market, on average, we're not going to use this specific for homes, but if we compare last year to this year, we are actually up 3.7% on price per square foot, if you can believe it. So we're seeing those prices come back. We're going to see that when we look at the average price. So in 2024 versus 2023. So if you're looking at, $6 per square foot, almost $7 per square foot, that we're coming back, that is on an average home, $7 per square foot, that's $21,000 coming right back. So that our average price per square foot is up April over April of last year. Here's the historical look in Bonneville County on price per square foot. This always blows my mind. I've been in this business, I don't even like to say, but over 20, around 20 years. And so when I look back at, 2010, or even when I got in that 2010, 2014, at those average price per square foot, and then I come down here, I can't, it's hard to imagine. That's what dates me when I'm looking at, when I talk about being old, is when I go, back when it was $50 per square foot. But if you take a look at the price per square foot month over month and year over year, we can see where our jumps start to happen. And of course, always that 2021, 2022, which was the abnormal market. Please, when you look at this, I like to show this overview because people say, well, when are we going to get back to that market in 2021? Remember, that was an anomaly. That market was out of, and our economy really didn't do well afterwards, right? We're trying to get inflation back under control as a result of that. So that was an anomaly in the market, just kind of like the crash. The crash was a crazy low time. We went to a crazy high time, and now we're normalizing back in. So I like to see that coming back to a little bit normal prices. But I mean, honestly and truly, before the big rush of 2021 and COVID, I mean, 90s, we're still far above what we were back in that time. So of course, you're looking at the cost of materials. you're looking at demand in Southeast Idaho. We still don't have enough homes on the market. Our inventory is still pretty low. So you can see over time, how has price per square foot changed in Southeast Idaho and in Bonneville County. So for April of 2024, our average price for Bonneville, Bingham, and Jefferson County was $427,992. So basically $428. So up, I put that a negative, even though that should have been a positive. It's a 2.6% increase. So we are, again, up. Average price per square foot is up, and the average sale price is up. So you're going to see we are starting to come back in. And what does that mean? If you were thinking you were waiting for the market to crash, it doesn't have any indication so far that we're heading any more down, that we are on the upswing and we're recovering, especially if those interest rates continue to soften in our market. The average sale price over time, this is a really interesting stat and a nice visual to look at. So as you look at the graph down below, you can see how it's very steadily, it's been steady climbing. We like to see 3 to 4% appreciation. That is a healthy market. That's a healthy real estate market. It's why when we give you advice, should I buy a home? Well, you're planning to stay in it 3 to 5 years. If you are, you're going to get your money back and earn a little bit of money. If you're under 3 years, on an average, 3 to 4% increase, man, it'll be a little bit tight. Will you be able to break even and get all your money back? And when you go to sell your house, it'll be tight. So we are feeling as though we're getting back to that. As you can start to see right here, when we look at the evening out, we're starting, instead of climbing, we're starting to even out, which we'd like to see. It's nice and healthy to see that average, that appreciation be nice and steady in a slow, steady climb, instead of going back in here in 2021 where we saw that rocket ship that took us up on the average sale price. So right now we're sitting here in Bonneville County at 406. Just 5 years ago in 2029, we were at 227. So that was a big jump inside that area. But this is pretty neat to see how we've changed in April time over time. And if you look over here on the right, here's your averages. So right now, just for 2024, our average for the whole year is 339. But you can see back, we're still ahead of 2020. So our average sale price is up from 2020. So it's not like we're sliding backwards and moving down. So again, I feel like that's a really good indication that we are on the upswing once again. Hopefully not a skyrocket. Now, if those rates drop, I'll tell you this right now, if those rates drop, we may see that same situation again, because everyone that's waiting to come back in the market, especially if they have a really low rate and they don't want to sell, but if rates drop, you might see them coming back in the market. And again, we will still be low on inventory. So production by me. So this little slide is talking about average original list price to sold price percentage. How far above the original list price when a seller said, hey, I'm going to put it on the market at this price. This is what we call the bait. This is what I'm offering. This is what I'm asking for my house. And then when they finally sold and closed, what did the buyer actually pay as a percentage of that original price? So in 2024, we're just about 98% of that original list. Now, that doesn't mean that people are overpaying. I think sellers have adjusted. For a while, we saw some dips down, especially when rates got high. Sellers were still hoping to get more, and they realized they have to adjust to the market. No matter how much a seller asks for a house, the market will tell you what the buyers will pay. So as of last year, we were about 96.1. This year, we're almost 98. So again, once again, our sellers, it's just an indication. Sellers are starting to see that they are going to list their homes at a more reasonable price to what they're going to end up at the end. They're not hoping for a skyrocketed price. They're taking a look at the market and making those original list prices a little more palatable to the buyer. This is what it looks like over time. So if you look over month, year over year, how do we do when the seller offered a certain price? What did the buyer say that will be willing to pay? Now, what's really interesting is we get back into that 2021, that abnormal market. This is when our inventory was low, and we had an influx in Southeast Idaho of buyers. And in Bonneville County, we saw a lot of people that moved back to the area, and were taking advantage of those 3% interest rates. A flood of buyers into the market, move-ins as well as people who are looking to buy. They could afford more because of the low interest rates. So when that happens in supply and demand, there's not enough supply and we have a big demand. You saw on average people getting over what they were asking. It almost felt like you could ask for whatever you wanted and you got that price. But you'll notice it didn't stay that forever. There was a short time in there in that 100 that they were getting over 100%. It started to soften right about the time of 2022 in May and June. And what happened was inflation was out of control in the United States, and they decided to put the screws on and say, hey, let's lock it down and slow it down. And they raised interest rates. And that's when you first started to see, and that happened in March. But what happens in March is that's when houses come out and buyers are closing on houses that they went under contract a month or two ago. So you're still seeing those prices from a month or two ago. They caught up, started catching up about June. And you start to see that original list price to sell price go down, 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 because sellers were still saying, hey, wait a minute. I know my neighbor got this price a couple months ago for their house. And why am I not getting this price? Why am I not getting any buyers? And they're having to come down and adjust as interest rates go higher. Buyers were unhappy. They were unhappy with what's available, or they've got priced out completely. And they said, hey, we're not buying right now. We went in March, my rate was 3%, and now I have to pay 7%. That changed everything for buyers. And so you saw that where sellers had to realize if they were going to sell, they had to adjust those prices down because that buyers were not, the market was not giving sellers more money for their houses. But as we go through, I think we hit our low point in December of 2022. Man, that was a rough time. Sellers, it was rough. And if any of us that were selling houses at that time, it was hard. It was a hard time to make sellers feel confident that they were going to get their house sold, let alone that they were going to get a decent price for their house, especially if they hadn't owned it for very long. But then slowly and steadily, as you see, we start coming back because sellers are catching up with what's going on in the market. They realize they can't just ask for a skyrocketed price. They have to have the condition of their home be in a better condition to compete. And so we started to see the sellers adjust. Buyers adjust quickly because the interest rates affect them immediately. Sellers take a little longer to adjust. But now, as we can see, they started pricing it more correctly, and we're getting closer and closer to list price. So that was a good indication of the seller correcting to the market. Average days on market. This is our leading indicator of changes in the market. This is how long the homes are staying on the market. So for our 3 counties in 2024, in April of 2024, our average days on market is 47 days, which is pretty reasonable. It's pretty reasonable, you guys. I know we remember those 30 days on market, but after this many years in the business, 47 days is pretty darn good. And in 2023, we were at 60 days, 59 days. So we are softening, which means that it means that people are starting to get used to it. It's an indication that we are on the upswing. The lower days on market, the more activity we're having, the healthier the market is. So having a softening of average days on market over last year is a good sign that we've hit any bottom that we were going to hit, and we're on the upswing coming up. So days on market over time. So let's take a look what that means. What does it mean over time? As you can look back and see, again, look at that unusual market back in 2021 where we were hitting 15 days, 13 days. It was rough. It was so fast and so furious. But then as the interest rates changed in 2023 or 2022, you started to see that come to a halt. And those average days on market, if you're looking right here, started to climb as interest rates went up, and they started to climb again. So you can see an indication of what's happening in the market. We got pretty high, and then we had a softening in the rates, and we started to come back down. And then we hit a high again in October, and then we went through the winter, and then we started to come back down. So we're starting to see a recovery again. We have seen some higher rates there earlier in the year. And I think we're starting to see that change and come down. And so this is a good way to watch the market and get a feel of how it's going over time. And are we on the upswing? So let's talk about this. This is a big deal. I'm a listing specialist, so I work mainly with sellers. And this is the conversation I have every time I go on a listing appointment. Where do I start and do my asking price? How do I entice buyers into the market to come and look at my house and make an offer? So what we want to look at is, how do we tell if our house is overpriced? If you are looking and thinking about selling your home, number one, first thing is to call me, because we're going to have this conversation about your specific home. But understanding this concept is where it all began. So what we're going to do is we're going to take kind of the average home in Southeast Idaho, because you can't compare your home to every home on the market. Because as you can see, every price point has a different kind of story to tell. So we're going to use a house kind of in the middle of the market. This is the house that's popular in Southeast Idaho, between 2,400 and 3,000 square feet. It's got a 2 or 3 car garage. It's on a 1/4 acre to a 1/2 acre, has at least 2 bathrooms, which means we have finished basements. Because if you don't know, we're a basement place in Southeast Idaho. People that move here think it's kind of strange, but people here love basements. It's a finished basements with big windows that are bright and fun. So a finished basement. So let's take a look. How do we tell if our house is overpriced in Southeast Idaho? Oh, I've lost my mouse. There we go. Now I found him. Oh, no, now I've lost him again. Let's see if I've got him. Oh, you guys, sorry about that. There we go. Now we've got it. So in the month of April, how much did this average home sell for? Well, we had 16 homes in this criteria sell. And on average, the average price per square foot was $141.88. Interestingly enough, we had 8 homes sell in April of 2023. I need to change that instead of 2022. And it was $138. So again, we see that average price per square foot on the house going up. This is a really good indication of what would happen in a listing consultation. We're going to use your specific home. What are your homes selling for? Average price per square foot. So in April of 2024, $141 per square foot, 16 homes sold. Now, what are the homes that are pending doing? That's the next thing you want to look at. Sold homes, we know what the truth is. We know how long it took to sell. We knew if there were any concessions, did the seller pay any closing costs? We know what that true final price is. Well, the pending, but they were on the market in the past. So that home may have been on the market in the winter and got under contract. And now we're using it as a comparable going into summer. So it's a history, but it's truth. The more accurate and the best information you can use is your pendings, because that's happened probably in the last 30 days. So this home, all the homes that are pending right now, there's 9 of them. On average, they're at $158 per square foot. Now, we don't know what their final sell price is and if they're going to give concessions or come down in price. So that $158, we expect to see a little less by the time they actually close, just as an indication of what the closed sales are. But we knew that was the price it took to get an offer. So if you're trying to look at what to price your home to get an offer and begin negotiation, those pending sales give you a really good idea. So you wouldn't want to be above $158 per square foot, because that's what's saying the market is saying, this is what your house will get an offer. Now, what that final price is might inch a little more toward that 141. Now let's take a look at the third criteria you want to look at when you're pricing your home. And that is the active homes on market. That active home on market is everything not selling. I want you to make sure to listen to that. They're sitting on the market not being sold. So there's 15 homes right now in the criteria. And guess what that average price per square foot is? $164. And as you start to think about this, this is a pretty good indication of why they're not selling. Because if you were looking for a home like this and you saw a bunch of homes out there, you'd be picking the 158s because they all seem like the same house. They're the same criteria. And the ones at 164, and there's 15 of them, are not selling. They probably need to inch their way down to that 158 and a little lower if they want to get an offer, depending on their condition. So if we were to take a look at how is the market overpriced for our average home, it looks like the homes on the market right now are probably about $63,000 overpriced. And man, when you think about $22 per square foot, when it's a 2,800 square foot house, that's a lot of money. If you are $63,000 overpriced, you need to get down. Now that's depending, let alone all the way to sold. So this is what we're going to talk about and find out in your price point if you're overpriced, and you got to get into that pending realm. Otherwise, you're going to sit on the market just like those 15 homes right there. If you have any questions on this or want to talk about the specifics of your house, this is when you give me a call and we sit down and talk about it. So here's the stereotypical home, the same criteria of the last slide over time. As you can see, there was a slow little trudge up, and then here was the softening in Southeast Idaho during the Great Recession, and then we started to trudge back up again, and then our big jump in 2021, and we're starting to settle back in. On average, we like to see a trend line that's about 4%. So you're looking for something that's looking like this as it goes up like this. So we're probably still a little bit over if we were looking at the historical trend line. That was a terrible draw, by the way. We're about average about 385 for homes on this typical as a typical. So we'll probably soften just a little bit more or not, or we might have just brought that trend line back up. For a long time, our trend line was under. We were kind of probably a little bit more like this. And we sat underneath the average national average. So we're trending back up on our average prices. Looking at price changes over time. Now, why this is important to me is because if you price your home a little too high, you're going to need to have a price change, because there's no matter what you ask for your home, buyers will pay what the buyers will pay. So you can take a look in April of 2024, how many price changes do we have? If you look back on the price changes in 2021, there were not very many. It was a pretty low time for price changes, again, because sellers were on average getting what they were asking for their homes. So this 2021 price change, not a lot. But as rates change, right in here, again, 2022, right about May, that big slowdown. Look how many price changes we had to have and adjust as the sellers had to learn and become adjusted to the new market. But what's really interesting as you watch this happen, now we're getting back down again. And this section means that our sellers are pricing more on point. They're having to do less of price adjustments over time, which means we're getting smarter and sellers are realizing that they've got a price on point for the condition of their home. Distressed properties. I just thought this was probably interesting, as a lot of people ask us about what's going on with foreclosures. What's going on with short sales and foreclosures in Southeast Idaho? If you look back to 2015, you could see there was some significant a percentage of the market had foreclosures and had some distressed property sales. But over time, the reason this has changed and the reason we don't have very many in this market is when the value has increased, they don't need to be foreclosed on. They could sell their house and be able to pay what they owe. Even if a seller can't make their payments, if there's enough equity in their home to sell and pay them the bank back, they don't have to go through foreclosure. So what I'm predicting is happening as we see in 2024, we had a little bump. 6% of the closings were distressed sales in the $200,000 to $250,000 price range. So as a result of that, when you look at what markets are having a struggle, maybe what's happening is those houses were the ones sold in 2021, and they were sold for quite a bit more, and now people are not willing to pay that price. So we're seeing a few more distressed property sales. We saw a little bit in the 400 to 450, and we're seeing a few in the $500 to $600,000 range, but only about 2% in those price ranges. So a very small amount. The 200 to 250 is we don't like to see 6% of all the closed sales being distressed sales, but that I have a feeling there's a few people in there that can't get sold for what they bought it for a couple of years ago. And so back in, of course, in the 2015, we're seeing a little more. A few years back beyond that, it was pretty heavy. So as you can see, not much happening historically. But if you want to know what's going on with distressed homes and foreclosures, there's not much going on. So don't get excited. Here's how it looks over time. So if you look back in 2015, for a total market, the total market had 12% of the total market in distressed sales, and it just plummeted as it went through, and we went through the Great Recession, and people started to have enough equity that they can sell their homes without having to be foreclosed on. They can actually get the money back and get the bank paid back. You can see how that's gone over time. So that's what our foreclosure market looks like in Southeast Idaho. So let's just take a little snapshot. Really, we kind of covered pretty much everything in here. All the different areas. Absorption rate and new listings we're about to cover in our next section. But what's interesting in this slide is the interest rates. You'll notice where we're at on interest rates from 2020 to 2021 and that little skyrocket of interest rates. That is really what has affected our market the most in the past couple of years, is those interest rates going up. Right now, this past month, we were sitting around that 7% mark. Last year, we were at 6.3. So again, I'm surprised. It makes me a little surprised, but it just means the market is getting adjusted to where we're at on interest rates, because we're actually having more sales than last year, even though our rates are higher. So let's dive into a few other little things in our section number 2, and let's cover the activity for the month in Southeast Idaho. What this means is what's going on in the actual, not closed sales, but what happened in the market. This is new listings. How many homes came on the market in April in Bonneville County? So this is an indication of how healthy the market is. We worry about inventory when we don't have enough new listings. If home sales are closing, but we're not getting enough new listings over time, that means that we're not going to have inventory is going to tighten, prices are going to go up, those kind of things. So how did we do? Well, as you can see here, we had 210 homes come on the market in April in 2024 in Bonneville County. That's up over last year. And if you look back in 2020 and 2021, which is our heavy market, we're not that far behind. So we're looking really good on new homes. We were a little skinny at the beginning of the year, and especially look at December. That was a rough month. It was a tough, low inventory month in December of 2023, but we're starting to pick right back up. And as you can see, this little trend here, this just shows you more people sell more people put their homes on the market in the summer. And the reason is people that don't have to sell, they're not moving for a job or a marriage or a divorce or a have to situation. They'll usually wait till the snow is gone to put their homes on the market. And that also works for buyers. Buyers who don't have to move, that their lease isn't coming up, that they're not moving here for a job, they also move into the market in the summer. But the ones in the winter that buy and sell have to. They're moving for a job. Maybe they're getting married. Maybe they're getting divorced. Maybe there's a death in the family. Mom and dad have passed and they're selling the house. All of those things still happen in the winter. So more buyers and more sellers in the summer, but more serious buyers in the winter. So I would say it's a really good time in the winter to sell. New contracts. So those are new listings coming on the market. So homes entering the market for sale. New contracts are people coming together on a contract to buy a home. So how many pending homes? How many new pendings are coming on the market or happening? As we look here, we had 157. So if we go back on a slide and we had 210 homes come on the market and we had 157 homes go under contract. So we gained a little inventory because we had more homes come on and less than went under contract. So we gained some inventory, which is what we really need. So that's a really good thing. So as we look at this, I have a feeling we saw some rough interest rates right in here. And of course, back in December, this was really a rough time. But now as we're softening, I think we're going to see this number climb, new contracts over time for next month. Mark my words. Tune in next month. So let's look at what is called the listing flow. This just says what's going on with homes on the market. What's kind of flowing along the way. If you look at new listings, so in 2024 in April, 659 homes were new listings, right? Were new listings. I think this is actually year to date. Now that I think about this, new listings on the market year to date. Then how many expired or withdrew from the market, which I always say they gave up the ghost. Either their situation changed or more likely what the market says their house would sell for, they were not willing to lower to. Most people that withdraw or expire, they were trying for a certain price and they didn't have to sell and they withdrew from the market. So that kind of happens if they won't get their prices in alignment with what the market is saying. Then the expired to withdrawn ratio, how much of the market withdrew or expired? 22%. We don't like to see that. We'd like to see that under 10% of homes expiring. We saw last year quite a few as people kind of just said, hey, the price that the buyers are willing to give, I'm not willing to come down to. But you didn't see very much happening in 2020 and 2021. We like to see those numbers. But if you look historically, we're still sitting pretty good, even though we'd like to see that a little bit lower. How many price changes and adjustments? Notice on 2022, which is where we started to see rates adjust, into 2023, where we had those higher rates, tons of price adjustments, just to get back into lining up with the market. New contracts, again, going pending. Terminations of contracts, which means they went under contract and then they didn't fulfill. Through inspection, through changing their mind, through not being able to get financing. Some people get financing, and if a rate changes and they're not locked in, they can no longer qualify. So that actually is not too terrible. Our 97 contract terminations, if you look back over time, we did pretty well so far on terminations. We're keeping those down, and that with that ratio. And then finally, the closings year to date and average sold price year to date. So that's kind of an interesting idea of what's happening with the market and what's coming and going, and with listings and active listings on the market. So let's talk about inventory. Let's talk about the houses that are on the market right now and what's going on with those homes. So inventory level. So what this does is how many homes are on the market in each of these price ranges. This will give you an idea of where our most popular homes are and homes that sit a little longer. So as you can see, we actually have 11 homes on the market. And so this isn't in April, but this is as of now. I've got April 2024 right there, but it actually is current right now. And so we have some homes underneath $200,000. We see a lot of manufactured homes and trailers under that $200,000 range, but we have a little bit of a selection. And as you start to see climb up, you start to see where we're heavy. We've got quite a few homes in that 350 to 400. We see more homes right in this popular area in Southeast Idaho. As you climb up this way and you build, there's not as many sitting up here, but there's a heavy load up above 1.25. And we're going to see when we break that down on average days on market, that there's a lot of homes sitting in that upper end. It just means if you're going to put your house on the market above $1 million, just be prepared to have quite a bit of competition and probably to sit for a little while. Even right, I guess I move this right here. We got plenty of homes in that same area in the market. If you look historically, it's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. If you go back over time on how many homes were on the market, we're not doing bad on inventory. We, of course, would love to see more, and buyers would always love to have more options, but it's looking pretty good on inventory. Here's our levels over time. It's kind of the same kind of idea, but adding everything up over time. Let's keep going over months rather than price point. Let's talk about absorption rate. What this really is an indication of is how is the market more heavily fared toward the buyer, or is the market more heavily fared toward the seller? Absorption is how many months of inventory do we have? And what that really means to the layman is if we didn't have any more homes come on the market today, how many months would it take to sell out of what we've got available in inventory based historically on how many homes per month sold? So what that means is how many homes it's supply and demand. Now, a balanced market, when you see right down here on the lower right, this is a really good visual. That line right here at right through the middle, that's a balanced market. That means the seller doesn't have an advantage over the buyer, and the buyer doesn't have an advantage over the seller. They've got to kind of come together for a win-win. When it becomes a buyer's market, that means the seller's probably got to come down. It means we have a lot of homes on the market, and the buyer is in control because there's less buyers, and the sellers are trying to entice them in. In a seller's market, which means inventory below 6 months, well, I'm going to say below 4 months. A balanced market runs from 4 to 6 months. Seller's market is below 4 months. As a result of that, when you look at that, that means the seller is in control. That means there's less homes on the market and a lot of buyers that want to buy. So the buyers have to do things and be prepared to give the seller what they want. So you can take a look at where we are. If you go back to 2010, that was a buyer's market. So anything up above 5 months of inventory put us in a buyer's market. So that buyer was in control. There were lots of homes on the market and not as many buyers. But as we switched over and got down, we started to see, we crossed into the seller's market right about 2015. And we've gone down until where we were in, when we were in 2021, we were in an extreme seller's market. Sellers were in control. Buyers did what the sellers wanted during that time. But we've started to see that creep back up. And that happens as you see more inventory to keep balance with the number of buyers. So as of right now in Bonneville County, we're sitting at 2.5 months of inventory. It's still a seller's market. Now, that doesn't mean it's a seller's market in your price range. If you're up there above 800,000, you may not be able to feel that way. But overall, on average, about 2.5 months means that we're in a seller's market on average in Bonneville County. So let's get a little bit more specific about that. Oh, hold on. Let me go back to this. Let me tell you, I don't have one more slide on that. So what it means is if you are in a price point that is in a seller's market, that means you might be able to be a little more aggressive and ask for a little bit more money or not have to do as many repairs. But if you get into a buyer's market, which is happening in the upper end of the market, it means that you're going to have to do things. You got to have your house in a great condition. There's a lot of homes competing for those buyers, and there aren't as many buyers. So you've got to, number one, price correctly, as always. But number two, your house has got to be in great conditions. And you got to be prepared for the buyer to ask for repairs. And when they find something wrong, you need to be prepared to be able to fix those for those buyers. That's what happens when the buyer is in control. And in the upper end in Bonneville County, that is a buyer's market. So just know that. All right, let's finish this up with our final section. Is it a good time for you to buy or sell? So this is a pretty big, complicated slide, but it's going to show you a little bit of an indication of why it says for you. Because what I want you to notice is your price range. If your home is in a certain price range, these numbers are going to apply specifically to you. Now, if you don't know what your home is or you're making assumptions, Idaho is a non-disclosure state, which means Zillow and Zestimates and all those things aren't going to have the real market value for you. So I'm happy to give you that value without any obligation, just so you have an idea. I actually send out a monthly market update for you on your house, just to kind of keep a pulse on the market on your house so you have an idea. It's great for insurance to make sure you're always insured. So let me know if you want to receive that. All I need is your email and your address. So let's take a look right here. Okay, let's say your home is kind of in that middle of the road in Southeast Idaho, and you're somewhere in this 350 to 400 range. Well, what's going on in your price range? Well, there are 29 homes on the market. The average days on market in that price range is 71, which means you've got to be prepared to not be sold in 30 days unless you're the best one on the market in the price range. The number of pendings is 27. So we have 71 homes on the market, 27 under contract, which means that we are about almost half, right? Half of the home, well, not half, a little under half of the homes, the inventory is under contract. So that gives us an idea of how those are moving. It's not the same amount, right? We're not running out of inventory in that price range. And so over the last 6 months, how does the number of closings go? The average price closed per month, which helps us get all the way down to our average days on market and the absorption rate. So if you come all the way across into your price range, how is the absorption rate in your price range? Well, if you're in the 350 to 400 range, you're about 1.3 months of inventory. That's a pretty awesome seller's market. That's a pretty awesome seller's market. Now let's jump all the way down here, and let's say your home is 800 to $1 million. There's 37 homes. I mean, the average days on market is 80. Is that 37 or 87? And then we've got 3 homes, 1 sold, right? And as you go across here, but how long it's taking to sell, there's 10 months of inventory. 10 months of inventory means it's a buyer's market, a pretty severe buyer's market, which means you've got to be prepared to make sure that you have less buyers for the homes that are on the market. So you've got to know, I've got to be prepared for that. And as you look at any of the higher end homes, 21 months, 25 months, so you can start to see as you get above 800,000, we flip right there to a buyer's market. So just kind of know that. And that's a really good thing to understand as you sit down to think about selling your home. And that's why having a really good listing agent to explain it to you, help you price for your condition, be aggressive, have a lot of marketing, that's going to get your home sold. So this gives you an idea. It's an interesting slide to take a look at your specific information on your house. And you guys, that's the stats. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was informative. I hope it was helpful. Again, if you subscribe or follow us, we're going to do this every single month on the stats, but every week we're going to have a little update that's going on, anything kind of exciting happening, interest rates month to month, and what's going on here locally. So if you'd like to also get our newsletter, that means you get these stats, the video, and you get all the slides. If you'd like to have the slides, you can kind of look at that, and I've even got some in there that I didn't throw into the conversation. Just go ahead and go to jessica.viewidlefallshouses.com/newsletter, and you can sign up for that. Or, of course, shoot me a message on social media or send me an email. Give me a call. I'd love to get you on the newsletter because we'd love you to be informed. And I would love to help you buy or sell a home. It is never a bad time to start to make a plan. And if you're watching this video, so are hundreds of buyers. Call me to list your home today.